Forspoken equips players with an impressive arsenal of devastating magic spells and fantastical movement abilities, which is perfect because you'll need to effectively utilize every tool at your disposal to prevent yourself from becoming a meal for the horrifying creatures of Athia. Thankfully, we've compiled a handy list of tips to help you get the most out of Frey's explosive armory of incantations, conjurations, and sick parkour tricks. Here are 7 spoiler-free combat tips that'll help you slay foes with ease in Forspoken. The mysterious land of Athia is brimming with hostile creatures and aggressive adversaries. While many of these enemies seem overwhelming at first, Forspoken implements crucial gameplay mechanics that provide players with a deeper understanding of would-be opponents. Before rushing headfirst into battle, it's wise to take a moment and learn what you're going up against. Pressing up on the D-pad triggers a cuff scan, which not only marks all enemies and items nearby, but also grants Frey the capacity to further investigate highlighted antagonists by tapping up on the D-pad once more. From here, you'll receive a curated enemy infographic that details the hostile's strengths, weaknesses, and spell immunities. The effectiveness of your equipped spell types is indicated by up arrows, which represent increased power, and down arrows, which indicate lesser damage. The associated text blurbs also spotlight lethal attack patterns or noteworthy shortcomings. If you prefer to study up on break zombies or errant soldiers from the comfort of a scenic lookout, or just outside the intimidating danger zone, you can access your archives from the menu at any time. This bestiary delivers convenient access to an enormous amount of valuable enemy information in one centralized location. Just remember, you'll only have access to archive entries for enemies you've previously encountered. Battles in Forspoken can be a bit chaotic. Frequently, you're facing off against numerous combatants simultaneously, and sometimes that makes strategically planning your next move rather tricky. If you find yourself overwhelmed, there are a handful of tools that will give you a chance to slow things down and catch your breath. Unlike many other RPGs that feature over-the-top spells and magic, Forspoken's combat plays out in real time. With an ever-growing catalog of attacks and abilities to choose from, effectively equipping the right spell for the job can be daunting. Thankfully, simply holding L1 or R1 during battle, which brings up your active attack and support spells, significantly slows down the flow of combat, giving you additional opportunities to prepare for incoming offenses. As we stated in our first tip, the cuff scan provides players with critical enemy information, but what we didn't mention is that when reviewing insights of highlighted foes, the in-game action comes to a complete halt. If an overpowering mutant's relentless barrage is becoming too much to handle, a well-timed cuff scan can buy you a moment to collect yourself and mentally prepare for the next phase of the fight. Forspoken incorporates tried-and-true gameplay mechanics like stamina and dodging. However, the magical parkour abilities of Frey introduce unique and remarkably potent means of avoiding even the most destructive enemy attacks. In combat, players can press circle to quickly dodge in any direction. For basic opponents with standard movesets, this is a quick and efficient way to avoid damage. However, bosses and special creatures require the power of parkour. Holding circle enables Frey's magical parkour, which automatically dodges most approaching attacks by consuming stamina. As a general rule, this is the best way to evade enemies. Keep in mind that if you run out of stamina, you'll be unable to use the parkour ability for several seconds. There is one exception to the parkour rule though. Attacks indicated by a red flashing X can't be automatically dodged. To stay out of harm's way, you'll need to steer clear of these lethal blows entirely. Fortunately, utilizing parkour in combat provides a significant speed boost, which should provide a fruitful method of escape. Frey's repertoire of dramatic magic powers allows for ample experimentation. As you traverse the expansive biomes of Athia, you'll unlock new combat, movement, and support spells. Many of these can be cleverly incorporated during battles to help you gain the upper hand. Tired of obnoxious birds dodging your burst shots? Let your disperse spell, which acts as a stationary turret, do the heavy lifting for you. There are even entirely different disciplines of magic with their own distinctive playstyles. Frey's purple magic typically focuses on range damage and keeping your opponents at a distance. In contrast, Syla's red magic encourages aggressive close-quarters combat. As we touched on previously, there are situations where specific magic types are strongly encouraged. If your attacks are met with a resistant indicator, try swapping to another discipline to more effectively rack up damage. You can spend mana, earned by leveling up or collecting mana deposits scattered around the world, to unlock and improve your magic repository. Don't worry too much about respeccing or investing in abilities you won't utilize, as you can convert most spells back to mana at no extra cost. This welcomed flexibility offers you the freedom to find the spells that best suit your playstyle. Now, there are some important combat techniques that Forspoken only tells you once you're much deeper in the game, but you can still utilize these strategies well before the in-game tutorials appear. While your combat spells assigned to R2 can be used as frequently as you can squeeze the trigger, your support spells on L2 have significant cooldowns. Each support spell has its own cooldown timer, so ideally, you'll want to swap between support spells rapidly to ensure enemies suffer a steady flow of debilitating status effects and crowd control debuffs. But if you do have a favorite support spell you want to continuously use, landing basic attacks does help reduce the cooldown timer. Usually, to access a level 2 or level 3 combat spell, you're required to hold down R2 to charge the equipped attack. Unfortunately, this leaves you incredibly vulnerable to enemy advances. Charged combos allow you to sprinkle in standard shots, aerial attacks, and dodges before instantly charging your strongest equipped attack. All you have to do then is release R2 at the desired moment to unleash the charge attack. While exploring the open world in Forspoken, you may come across new enemies that hit way harder than beasts from other areas. If you find yourself unable to take more than a couple smacks from basic opponents, it's probably time to stop and upgrade your equipment. Compared to other fantasy RPGs, Forspoken has an interesting approach to gear. Frey's three main pieces of equipment are her cloak, necklace, and nail polish. These categories can be swapped out with fresh items or upgraded with various resources. In addition to raw stat increases that improve health or magic damage, you can customize modifiers that reduce the impact of status ailments such as poison or grant a healing boost after a critical strike. The materials required for upgrades will vary based on their type and rarity level. To ensure you're adequately equipped for the battles ahead, take time to investigate your surroundings and collect any resources that appear after a cuff scan. Eventually, some rarer commodities will become readily available. So if you can't find a specific flower or stone, just make your way to the next major area. Forspoken features a staggering amount of gameplay customization and accessibility options for players. Many of these toggles fundamentally alter the game's difficulty, and in some cases, offer simple solutions for those struggling to overcome the inherent challenge of more harrowing encounters. If you find yourself overwhelmed with fighting, dodging, healing, managing stamina, and switching spells in real time, you can adjust specific parameters to make things easier. From auto evasion, which will automatically evade attacks using magic parkour, to full pause with spell switching slowdown, which completely stops combat when holding L1 or R1, numerous options help players tailor Forspoken as they see fit. Another setting potentially worth disabling is the trigger effect intensity. The DualSense capabilities of the PS5 controller enable dynamic resistance with the left and right triggers, and Forspoken completely embraced the possibilities here. However, after a few hours of playing, you'll likely notice some apparent fatigue considering how frequently you'll need to squeeze the triggers in this game. Athia is as dangerous as it is beautiful, but hopefully these combat tips will help you overcome the grand challenges that await you in Forspoken. For more on Frey's otherworldly adventure, be sure to check out our full video review and our Forspoken general tips and tricks. And for everything else gaming, keep it here on IGN.